You do not, on snow-covered asphalt in a black t-shirt, approach me, non-stop talking. That is not you. You do not astral project, meet friends in dream space, never leave your apartment. No, you don't. You and I discuss. We walk down corridors, stroll through a garden to look at nature. And so there are just these weird little sort of, I don't know, almost just like thoughts and observations about people. But so like that one's like paired like this with this really stark etching of an astronaut. Anyways, the other one is a lot more crass, which is in, I guess, maybe in line with the stuff that I write, unfortunately for you. But it's called Drinking with Boiler Yard Clark. If you can say that one time fast, I'll give you $50. And it's by Dane Perry, who's mostly a baseball writer living in Chicago. And since it's baseball season, I think it's all right to share one of these. This is called Great Moments and Spectacles, Steve Trout. Some of you might remember Steve Trout. Steve Trout is aware that society would prefer that he not wear those seductive Foster Grants, particularly in mixed company, but he doesn't much give a damn about that. When a gentleman like Steve Trout walks loins first into the room, you're immediately aware of three things. The van is customized, love is about to be made, and the status is no longer quo. I have some copies of these if anybody wants them. Hey, will you give me like will you tell me like when to shut up? No? Okay. I'm going to read half a poem then, and then I'm going to sit. So, do you like my socks?
Yes.
Thank you. I was going to tell you that you did like my socks by the end of the poem, so I can skip this one now. In my socks, I got up. In my socks, I ran through the living room out into the street, where I stopped and wondered if living room was one word, or if it should be. And when I had resigned to the idea that it didn't really matter if living room were one word or two, because both would convey the same meaning to most people. When I had resigned to that, I began to ask myself how I preferred to think of living room as one word or two. I discovered I didn't really have an opinion. In my socks, though, I was still standing in the street, and that neither truck nor bus had hit me while I was standing in the street, and that my last living thoughts had not been about, or were not yet about, the differences between descriptive and prescriptive grammar, and that I was still alive at all, I was disappointed. For why had I run into the street, then stopped to consider the spelling of a word, if not to die? And that I am here now, in an art gallery or bookstore or something, and that many of you are looking at me, and that I have imagined this day and feared it, and that nothing is profound when you think about it, I am betting that you are bored, would like to be getting on with the dancing or getting it on at home, or at least getting on home, to the removal of socks and other clothes, the caressing of skin, the reheating of faux, the perusing of instant cues, the late night Instagramming of cats and beverages, and that you are now listening to me instead of doing these things, instead of partying or decidedly not partying, and instead reading something very depressing in dim light, and that I am not even very much to look at, and that the sound of my voice does not turn you on, and that this poem will probably never end, and that I farted a fart that smells like a baby diaper. You probably dislike me, but I am guessing that in spite of all this, you do like my socks. I know that you are at least hot for my socks, and that has made all the difference. Oh, I'm not used to clapping in between poems. It is nice actually. It's really reaffirming. I work at Woodland Pattern Book Center down in Milwaukee, and thanks. It's a nice place. And a lot of the readings there, I mean, like, well, we have a great variety of readings there, but some of them, you know, like are like highly academic, and maybe you, and like people just sort of like stroke their goatees while they listen, and they don't really, they don't clap until it's absolutely necessary. So lately in my poems, I've been using repetition. I don't know if it's working. I think repetition gives the reader something to latch onto as the poem goes on, or maybe it's used to drive home a point. And it can be probably used for a lot of other things in a poem, or in prose and speeches, and provided that you're smart enough to use it in those ways. Like maybe there's a long tradition of using repetition to overthrow dictators, or using repetition to gain a 2/3 majority in Congress, or using repetition to seduce pop stars, or using repetition to subdue or invigorate a mob or your mom, using repetition to reduce the ratio of mentions of your mom to the rest of the stuff in a poem. In my poems, I am mainly using repetition to hypnotize people. Now give me your purses, man bags, and billfolds. Some of these poems I really shouldn't read. But no, this one I can read. My fiance, the one relationship or anything in my life that I haven't bungled, is sitting back there, and she said that I had to read my Carl Sagan poems. Now, it was appropriate, of course, since Cosmos is being redone now with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And of course, Carl Sagan did the original Cosmos. So this is called On Carl Sagan. And the epigraph is, "A still more glorious dawn awaits." Carl Sagan said that. When you see that most glorious coiffure Carl Sagan sports, you'll know it's not like anything else alive. It itself is not alive. Often I am sad to think of Carl Sagan being dead. But then I think, what if he was alive in space, his skin bloated to 2 times its normal size, his fine mind deprived of oxygen, mayhap deprived like mine, wasting? No, it's better that he's dead in space, his brain on ice here on Earth. A solid, painless state of which I am envious, like so many other things about Carl Sagan that I am envious of. His jaw like a moose's, his fine mind, his jackets, monotone, earth tones, all. His collaborations with Stephen Hawking, with Tina Turner, with Malawi Gold, etc. It has gotten so that the only way to imagine Carl Sagan is on a runway made of space discs. Actually, it's supposed to be space discs, but I think since it's a poem by me, space dicks is pretty good too. His skinny jeans made of God, his junk being every other man's treasure. The very sight of his chest hair, even a tiny glimpse of his chest hairs, is enough to make you just give birth right now, are enough to blind you with science. Because Carl Sagan not only invented science, not only shat science out of his holy hole, not only sat on science until it was ready to hatch, he shat eggs of science. Not only did he shave science with mind lathes into a refined science canoe that we know it as today. Oh, artisanal science canoe of Sagan. Not only that, but Carl Sagan also emits science from his hair follicles, especially his chest hair follicles, and from his junk too. Now you may ask, how can you say such things about Carl Sagan? But people, to whom is injustice done if I say to you, people, I say to you, Dr. Ian Malcolm, yes, Jeff Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park, was based on Carl Sagan. Well, I don't know if I should read the sequel.
Do it.
Maybe we'll come back to it. I do want to read this one though, since it has to do with my bio and the fact that I showed up late tonight thinking that the reading started at 7. So I apologize for all that. I'm earnest, if nothing else, and I'm very little else. This is called The Importance of Bungling Everything. Are people aware of this term, bungling? I mean, it's a word, obviously, but it's something that I think that people call Barack Obama the O'Bungler, right? A lot of people on Twitter, Teacots on Twitter, call him the O'Bungler, and no matter what happens, another thing is bungled. And so, first of all, it's a funny word. So I think it's worth making a poem around that. And I guess the rest is up to you. So I'll just read this one, and then maybe that'll be enough. The importance of bungling everything. Before I knew how to write, I'd already bungled the beginning of this poem. And the beginning was bungling, the big bungle, the unbungled bungler, who bungled all things into being, still does, still bungling today, keep on bungling. And all of us little bunglers have bungled unequally in its image. Like television, for instance, one of the all-time great bungles. Television was supposed to be a butthole, in that way it's actually a success. A lot of crap comes out of it. But everyone knows that some turds are perfect, are pleasing, completely. A person with a well-evacuated bowel is a happy person, is so light and free. Like some TV is good, even great. So it's not crap coming from the butthole that TV's supposed to be. A bungle, unbungled, rebungled. TV. We are all part of the great circle of bungling, wherein the baboon drops the lion cub off the cliff. In some ways, I have outbungled the O-Bungler Prime, but then I bungled the title bout, which, doesn't that mean I'm a better bungler? Bungling isn't what it seems. Bungling ain't easy. If you love something, bungle it. If it unbungles, it was meant to be bungled by someone else. Leave it be. That's my philosophy. I'm a PhD, bungler of philosophy. Here are a few things. My EV, my Aero Vitae. I Google translated bungle today in my phone, and it gave me Aero, E-R-R-E-O. Well, no, E-R-R-O. I bungled it. So my Aero Vitae is my bungle of life, my living bungle. I have bungled, that's not part of the poem, but it should be. I have bungled recently. Well, here are a few things I have bungled recently. Bath salts, mistaken for powder. Now my body's raw, composed entirely of exposed nerves. Don't touch me. Cake, mistaken for Coke. Now my septum's messy, but delicious to lick. Web solutions for me and my family. I asked Jeeves. Drooling, never proper. Smiling, not now. Which reminds me, someone bungled my face. Bungled my smile, I mean. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. I'm hideous. Look at me on that poster. I'm in an ad for bungling. In it I'm trying to tell everyone that it's okay to bungle just about everything in life. Look at me, for example, I say. I have bungled it all. My essence is such that, in some, I have bungled, therefore I am. They used to say, what do you give the guy who has bungled everything? I am saying, people, you give him an opportunity. Give a man a fish, they say, and he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, and he will probably bungle it. Starve it. I once bungled a fishing line, nearly lassoed a calf, but ended up with a lamb shank in my ass. Well, I gotta run. I just flew into a window, and boy are my poems tired. I come from a long line at the grocery store of bunglers. We were all in line, all wondering, what are we here for? The nice thing was, we were also all buying the wrong kind of rice cake. Is one more okay? Okay, thanks. Now what do I do? Should I read the sentimental one? Sentimental one? Should I read that? Does anybody even here, even a baseball fan? You are? Okay, good. Me too. So one of my favorite players is Joey Votto because he he was a guy who recently, he missed a lot of time with like severe anxiety issues, and he sort of brought that to the forefront and I think that's just something that's like really overlooked in sports a lot. And so the fact that like this superstar, this former National League MVP, went through this and sort of brought like psychological health up as an issue in professional sports, I guess that made me like him more, but I also like his style of play as well. But anyways, considering those things, I wrote this poem, a poem for Joey Votto. Today when I got on the bus, I said to myself, it is like I do not exist. At the doctor's office on a papered table in my boxer briefs, I was like, it is like I do not exist. When I am at home in an armchair, when my mouth is food, yes, my mouth can be food. When my mouth is full of food or dong, When I pull a well-worn dollar bill from my genuine leather wallet. Wherever there are books, websites, weirdos, women, or dullards, or ducks really. Ducks make me feel this way. Chickens make me sweat, boy. Whenever I watch a drug dealer teem with existential angst on TV, I want to be a drug dealer, and it is like I do not exist. When Joey Votto wants to break a bat but does not, when Joey Votto curses himself, in high socks no less, when I notice the elastic of veritable knickers at Joey Votto's knees, when I closed my eyes and saw nothing but Joey Votto's hairline, it is like I do exist, am alive, and part of everything that there is to be a part of, which is only one thing, this world of shit, without which nothing exists. At those moments when I wonder if there is life on other planets, at those moments I wish that Joey Votto would want to break a bat, but stop himself. That'll do it. Thanks a lot.